Innovation Unplugged from the Alabama Community College System's Innovation Center takes you inside Alabama's workforce development. Join us for enlightening conversations with community leaders and industry experts showcasing experiences, addressing key issues, and celebrating successes in the workforce initiatives across the state. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Innovation Unplugged. I'm Houston Blackwood, Workforce Director for this group, and I get to be the host today on the show. And if you notice on YouTube, I'm all alone. That's because our team is working across the state at different conferences that move our initiatives further. But today we have an extremely special guest, one I've known for a long time, way back in my days at Calhoun Community College, and we were just getting started in different divisions of the state. But Ms. Meredith Smith got a new title, and she's the director of the Alabama Office of Apprenticeships. And so she's going to tell us all about that. But what a phenomenal story, phenomenal program, and big shoes to fill. So Meredith, how are you?
Oh, good morning, Houston. I'm doing very well. Excited to step into this new role and continue partnership with you and the community college. And it's exciting. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, well, and just for transparency to the audience, we tried to record one of these at the Economic Development Association conference down at the Grand back in July, and it was out at one of the networking events, and the pool. It was poolside, and the band was playing, and we just couldn't get it. It wasn't right. So, and I said, "Hey, Meredith, let's get in the studio and get this information right." So here we are. And for the folks out there, a lot of our listeners have an idea about workforce, and they understand, credentials and certificates, but oddly, apprenticeship is a word a lot of folks don't know if they're not in workforce, and so that's really why I want to bring it in, because I see young people all the time, and not so young people, getting into these apprenticeships and changing their lives, and now you are the queen of all apprenticeships across the state. So we're going to go to that, but before
like that title,
the queen of all apprenticeships, yeah. Well, you are, and it's I know you've got some ideas, but you've been working this for a long time. So before we get into what the new role is and what all the AOA really does, give the audience the background of where Meredith came from and how you got to this position.
Okay, I began my career as an educator. I was in K-12 for 17 years. I worked with the littles, as we call them.
Oh, yeah.
Years in first grade, years of reading instruction, instructional coach. I didn't even know what workforce development was at that time, and now I realize I was part of workforce development, right? Then I took a new position at Alabama Public Television, and I was managing a grant that was raising awareness about all different kinds of career pathways. And that's what led me to the Alabama Office of Apprenticeship. A statewide project manager position had come open right about the time the grant was ending, and I just rolled right on into this.
Yeah. What year was that when you moved to the AOA?
2020, about 6 weeks before COVID hit.
Right. So I think I just assumed the director at Workforce Solutions at Calhoun like February of 20, like mid-February, and then
I'm here.
Yeah, and then there it was, boom, like, yep, you go home. Okay, so what a great time to start. Lee Shiver from Enterprise State, she took her director role, or transitioned out of high school into the college at the same time too. And so I think this is the third host or third guest that made a transition during that time. And my gosh, okay, so what was that like for you, going from public school, from the littles, and I was in elementary school one time. Wild. What was that like, going from the littles to the bigs?
To me, it was almost a full circle moment, because I spent so much of my career teaching children how to read, and now I got to be on the other end of that spectrum, making sure they got connected to promising career pathways. And it just felt very full circle, just still serving young adults. And of course, our position serves 16 all the way to 65, but I'm just on the other side of the circle now.
Yeah. Was there a time when you had a student that you taught when they were little that you've seen them now come through any of your programs? Maybe that's time it's not right for that, but have you had that opportunity to see one?
think so. You would think that I would have by now, but I don't think I have. That's a great question, Houston.
Yeah.
I do have some reach out to me on Facebook to
Okay.
ask.
Yeah.
I see your post about apprenticeship. Can you tell me more? So, yeah, I have had some of that, and
Well,
their mamas and their daddies.
sure. Yeah. Well, that's where the real magic happens, is getting the parents educated. I think making that shift, 10, 15 years ago now, from everybody going to 4 year to certificate to blue collar back to the trades, getting the mamas and the papas on board with, hey, baby doesn't need to go to 4 year just because everybody else is. Like, let's figure that out. So telling the parents about the opportunities there in the workforce has been, I think, the biggest journal.
Yes, and Houston, a lot of times people view apprenticeship as not college,
Right.
but the community college system is our biggest RTI, related
Hmm.
technical instruction provider, huge partner in this. Many, if not most, of our apprenticeships involve college credit, a lot of times degrees, university degrees. We even have one that ends with a master's degree in social work, so
Oh, wow.
apprenticeship can mean not college, but not necessarily. And to your point, sometimes not college is okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to be a plumber or an electrician, and I'm doing that training in-house with the electrician company where I've been hired,
Hmm.
but I'm still on a pathway to a really good career.
Right. My son is 16 now. He's got a friend who's also 16. They're sophomores, and the friend is one of the smartest kids in his friend group. But his parents are pushing him, rightly so, to either be plumber or HVAC, because the kid's always just been really technical with his hands and just understands things. And I'm like, okay, listen, but if you, from my experience, if you do XYZ at 18, 19 years old, this is where you'll be at 20, 30, 40, right? Financially, professionally, whatever. And that, their
I
eyes
mean,
light up.
Houston, have you had an HVAC technician or a plumber come to
Hmm.
your house lately? I
Plumber.
think
Hmm.
we both know they make great money and have good careers.
Yeah, and just selling that. So, and with the apprenticeships, like, you put a shine on that, because it is work based learning. But let's tell that story right here. So, let's go back to when you first took that assistant director role with AOA, and you were shaping things. And I'm not well versed on when AOA came to be, and its progress, its journey, its evolutions. But what were the things you had to do to make that really pop in your role there? And then what were the biggest accomplishments that you found?
I think I would need to start by telling you about our nursing apprenticeship. My very first week on the job, February 3rd, 2020, is when I started. Our director at the time took me to a meeting with Kenneth Kirkland. He's with the college system. He was at the system level at the time over all the healthcare programs. And he had been working with the Board of Nursing and the Nursing Home Association to figure out how we could build a nursing apprenticeship,
Hmm.
because the Hospital Association and the Nursing Home Association had approached him and said, that our office had just been created in August of 2019 by Governor Ivey, and they were looking for ways to strengthen recruiting and retention in healthcare. And this was before COVID hit, right? And so Josh said, this will be one of your big projects. And boy, was it ever. We wound up building the first of its kind in the nation apprenticeship program for nursing, because there's an intermediary credential that's issued by the Board of Nursing. So now we've got states all around the country flying into Alabama to see how we built this. And since it took, we had to pause during COVID, we launched with two schools, Coastal Alabama Community College and Gadsden State Community
Hmm.
College, and 4 employer partners in May of 2022. Since then, we've put over 1,000 nursing apprentices into our workforce. I believe almost 400 have completed, and we have 600 something currently training with hospitals, long-term care, rehab facilities all around the state. I believe we have 24 colleges and universities participating now. So it took serious partnerships and collaboration all around the state to build such a solid model that was able to scale so quickly. And I could not have done that without my team and without the partnerships that we have with the colleges colleges and universities and our champion employers. And we're just really, really proud of the work that has been put in to make that happen.
Yeah, that was an interesting time to be formed. And the first thing you did was nursing. COVID happened, and now it's still, but it persisted, right? Because it was a good plan. I was just listening to a podcast driving down. It was the oldest at the time, 2023, the oldest Navy SEAL. They called them bullfrogs, apparently. Frogman, the oldest one is the bullfrog. But he was talking about planning. Because then surviving whatever happens, and you move on into plan C and D and E. And so I don't know how much y'all had to pivot, but having 1,000 people in just, what's that, 5 years now, that's incredible. It's 200 a year. And that takes a lot to get those people there, like just to get them aware of it, get them signed up, and get them included in a course. So that actually is a good segue to the next question. Like, how do people get involved in an apprenticeship as the student, as the employers? Like, walk us through that process. Because most folks, they may know what an apprenticeship is, but they have no idea what it takes to A, create it, B, deliver it with the people that need it.
Well, apprenticeship has been around for centuries, right? And everybody has an idea what it is. And traditionally, they are in the trades. And we do have a lot of apprenticeships in construction and manufacturing, but we have modern apprenticeships too. Like I was just telling you, for registered nurses and LPNs, we have them for early childhood educator, executive chef. I mentioned social worker. As long as it's a middle or high skilled occupation, we can build an apprenticeship for it. And really, the way it happens is we have an employer reach out to us. A lot of times it's somebody who is connected through one of our partners, like an economic developer who knows about what we do, or someone from the college or K-12, or just an employer partner that we have, and it happens just in a conversation, and then they connect them with our office. We have 4 regional project managers who work with those employers, and they ask, what position do you have that's a pain point for you, where maybe you're wanting to strengthen your recruiting, your training, or your retention? And then we want to build out a customized training plan for you. And really, it's going to give that employer an opportunity to hire someone who doesn't have the skills yet, and the employer gets to grow their own. The apprentice gets to earn money while they're learning how to do that thing. Because you hear about the skills gap all the time, Houston. Employers have these open positions, but there aren't people out there walking around with the skill sets they need.
Yeah.
So this is the solution to that. You can bring them in without the skills, and you give them the skills exactly the way you want them to have it.
Right. And it's based on that, oftentimes that company's very specific role, right? Or very specific needs. Case in point, Michael, he's one of your project, Michael Brittier. He worked with, in my hometown, Hartselle, Sunoco and Sarawire, on some maintenance and production and whatnot. And they, those two guys, Stuart and Brian, from those two companies, just sing his praises, because it gave them a chance to bring folks in who were just good employees and put them in some kind of job, and then train them up as they go. And as they go through that apprenticeship, they move into that next level, all the way up, and then ultimately into either a degree program, or then you bring in like ATN to do even more technical training for someone who never had a degree. They've just had all this OJT. And so that's a really cool thing. You mentioned the pain point, and in customized training in a workforce department, that's what we're always after, is not really training what you're already doing well, what's running right, but where is your deficit? What do you see as the most common pain point around all the different industries? Is it the skills, or is it soft skills, or what's the most common pinch point for these companies?
I think probably both, but I would lean more towards soft skills. We hear that all the time. I can teach them what I need them to do, but I need them to show up on time, show up every day. We used to hear pass the drug test. We don't hear that quite as much, but I do, and get along with their teammates. It's show up on time, show up every day, get along with people, take pride in their work, things like that. It is work ethic for sure, because that's hard to teach.
I was talking to my son last night about 11 p.m. Neither one of us could really get all of our stuff done before then, and we were just talking about that. So he's 16, and he had football at like 6:30. Ridiculous. And I said, hey, most of the time, bud, if you'll just get up and show up, everything else works out, right? You don't even have to be that great at stuff sometimes. Just get up and show up. And I think a lot of people miss that point in the world, just watching out. So do you see a lot of attrition in these apprenticeships? Now, you talked about the nursing. You have 1,000 folks, 400 have completed, 600 are still working through it. What is your, and don't let me put you on the spot, but what is your typical attrition rate for these things?
I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah.
Nationally, 90% of our apprentices are still with the employer they trained with 2 years after finishing an apprenticeship. And I mentioned we were just created in 2019, so our data here is still very young on
Yeah.
that. But I mean, that it's you'd be hard pressed to find a better retention rate than that right there, and that's nationally. And we attribute that to an apprenticeship is the employer's investment in their talent, and that
Hmm.
builds a sense of loyalty. You
Yeah.
took a chance on me, you brought me in, you trained me up, you invested in me. And it's not just financially. We assigned you one on one with a journey worker, and so we took that person's time and energy and invested that in you too. And then it's also that relationship that gets built with the journey worker and the team. It's just a great model that really enhances retention for employers.
Right. You mentioned the investment in the individual and them seeing that from the company, but also that mentorship. I think that mentorship is, which is more, chicken or the egg there. But I think that mentorship of having that older, more experienced person walk them through all that and show them where they're headed, so they don't get stuck in the blinders and stuck on the problem at hand. That's impressive. 90%. I did not know that, and I didn't know what you were about to say, but you seemed excited about it, and that is an extremely impressive
Yes.
stat.
Yeah,
Um,
it really is. And Houston, you mentioned that we first met when you were at Calhoun. I was at Calhoun last week and I got to meet a journey worker. It's a nursing journey worker who was in Calhoun's very first cohort of nursing apprentices.
oh
Now
wow.
she's in the field training young nursing apprentices.
Okay.
Is that not so cool?
Well, she wasn't a little when you met her, but you were a part of. She was a little in the apprenticeship world, right? And so then you got her in. That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so that's another great segue to these student success stories. So she went from being one to leading one, and which is awesome. That's what we want. Grow your own. Did she have any success stories, or what did she say about her journey from apprentice to now journey worker?
She said that the journey worker made all the difference having that one-on-one relationship with the journey worker, because if you don't know much about nursing school, you get to be one-on-one the very last semester, but the 3 semesters or so leading up, you're with a clinical cohort of 6 to 8 people, and you're all sharing one nurse that you're following around. But
Right.
the apprentice gets to be one-on-one that whole time in the department where they're going to be working. And it's just, she said that the patience that the journey worker showed, and just the investment that she wanted to give back and do that for other people. And I do have another success story
Yeah.
from that same visit. uh, our office has what we refer to as our last dollar scholarship policy.
Right.
As far as I know, Houston, we're the only state in the nation that does not allow our apprentices to incur debt. The apprentices are responsible for offsetting the cost of their training with their Pell Grant, scholarship, WIOA, anything, GI Bill, any gift aid that they have. And then whatever balance is left while the duration that they're in the apprenticeship, that goes to the employer, not the apprentice. So I met a nursing apprentice that day, and she told me that she is a single mom of 3 children, and
Hmm.
her financial aid was running out. And if she had not had the apprenticeship, she would have had to choose between her mortgage and her tuition, and she would have had to drop out of nursing school. And she took a pay cut to be in the apprenticeship because she saw the value and knew that it would be worth it in the end. And she just said, I'm sitting here in front of you today as a nurse because I had this opportunity in this apprenticeship. That was at Calhoun as well, Houston. You'll be proud to know.
Well, that college is near and dear to my heart for sure. That's an impressive story. I would love to follow up offline with her. Uh, Not my world, not my program, but just to tell that story here
Yeah.
on this platform. And that's phenomenal. We see that a lot of times folks are living life, and that's what I try to tell like about skills for success is the folks that we serve outside of high school are often living life, and that's why we were created to have a short relevant training that gets them in the door, and then can lead to apprenticeships or degrees or just work if that's what you're ready for. So many times we had some students on the show recently. One was a overnight truck driver for like a dedicated route, and he was gone all night. And his kids were at home, and the oldest child was watching them. And he took our carpentry class, got a day job basically, and now he was talking about I was at home at 11:30, and I got to make my son a grilled cheese or a hamburger. It was a hamburger, and he hadn't been able to do that in almost a decade, and so change. So those kinds of
Yes.
folks where these students get to change their life and be not just a worker, but like they get to go back to being a mom and being a friend and having a life and not living, paycheck to paycheck and struggling and having some hope. That's really cool. I do want to connect with that student outside.
Yeah,
Um,
we can make that happen. And I'll give another example. A young man that we met from Coastal Alabama Community College, he told us he was living in his car when he got the opportunity to join an apprenticeship there. This one is in industrial maintenance, and now he's married. He has a house. He has a baby. It really can change lives.
yeah, well, that's powerful. If y'all aren't putting those all over if they're not the face of your marketing, then maybe they should be. Those are incredible stories.
We've got that on the list for sure.
Yeah.
Nothing tells it like the stories from the
Mm-mm.
apprentices. It's the best part of what we do when we get
Hmm.
to go out and meet them and hear how this is changing their lives. That I think that's the fuel that lights our fire.
Yeah, that's what keeps you up at night in the best way, and then also
Yeah.
helps you get up in the morning for sure.
Yep.
You mentioned early on the partnerships it took to build these apprenticeships, and I'm going to say partnerships, relationships. So important, and we talk about that all the time on the show. And we would not be here. The Innovation Center, Skills for Success, wouldn't be around if we didn't have amazing relationships. But you're dealing with industry people, educators, the workforce departments, for credit, non-credit at the college. Is like a diverse group of people to try to get an apprenticeship built. Not to mention the state people, and love all of them. They have different missions. What's that like working with that big group of people and trying to get them all to come to a point on one path for an apprenticeship?
No, we get asked that by other states a lot. They're a little jealous of
Yeah.
how well we all work. We play well in the sandbox here in Alabama. And I always tell them, I think it starts with our leadership.
Hmm.
Governor Ivy, she's been in office almost 10 years now. And she's a former educator. She's all about workforce development. She came up with a Success Plus plan
Hmm.
forever ago. We've had, the state workforce board, the regional workforce boards. We're all on the same team. But it's that leadership and the plan and the strategies. And sure, we have some silos, but it's nothing like what other states face. And I just think almost every one of our community colleges is a registered apprenticeship sponsor, and that partnership between us and y'all has
Yeah.
really helped us grow apprenticeship in such a successful, effective, and efficient way here in Alabama.
Hmm. Successful and efficient partnerships. I love those three words together, especially if the college system is involved with it. As you look out over the next 5, 10 years, and who knows what the economy is going to do, whatever, the world is on fire some places. What do you see in Alabama as your mission and your vision for the next 5 years?
I'll tell you what we're doubling down on right now. Alabama, I hate being negative, but I'm going to tell you we're going to solve this problem through these partnerships we've been talking about.
Okay.
Alabama has the highest rate of disconnected youth in the nation. It's 18.4% of our 18 to 24-year-olds are not working, and they're not in any kind of post-secondary education. That is almost 90,000 young adults here in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
But apprenticeship is a workforce pathway that is working for them, because almost 60% of our apprentices here in Alabama are between the ages of 16 and 24. So this is something that they are buying into. So we're doubling down on our efforts to connect with high school students and college students, make sure they know about all the high quality work-based learning opportunities that are available to them, make sure they know about apprenticeship opportunities, and we're working hard to expand those opportunities, because we believe if we can get them connected to work while they're still in school, we're much less likely to lose them, and it's so much harder to find them once they're off our radar, right?
Absolutely. Keith Phillips talks about that particular number and that subgroup all the time. I've heard him mention it, I think, in every conversation. Of course, Keith is the new deputy chancellor for workforce and economic development in the college system, community college system. But he talks about that. And then on the backside of that, we offered in our second year our courses to be connected to the Career Readiness Indicator with the State Department of Education. And my goodness, that was a rocket that I didn't expect to go as fast and as high as it did. And the colleges latched on and did some really good work. And now we're actually working to make that even easier for them to deliver. But we caught some, and I'll say this, and I probably shouldn't. Can I come work for you after I say this out loud? We caught some flack on how many high school kids we were serving. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, well, if we don't, they're going to become a disconnected youth, or they're going to go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a finance degree or what, something that doesn't give them growth or real potential in life. And so if we don't give them something that they're interested in, and here's the thing, like if you sign them up for an apprenticeship and they hate it, they're wasting your time and money and other people's time and money. But if we give them something, and I'm going to say that here's the segue from Skills for Success to the AOA, put them in 4 or 5 different courses and let them see, do they like a heavy machine or not? Do they like nursing or not? Do they like hospitality? Cool. Doesn't matter what they like or don't like, but let's figure it out. And then let's connect them to an apprenticeship that's related to that avenue. So you take them from having a view like, a 180 view or bigger of what they think they're interested in, and now you narrow it down, and then you get them into that apprenticeship, and now your rate of them, the chance of becoming a disconnected youth is almost nil, because they're into something they know they at least like a little bit, right? And
Yes. I would venture to say figuring out what you don't want to do
yes.
is more valuable than figuring out what you do want to do. Because what happens if you go and you get a degree and you haven't done the work? And as a teacher, your last semester is your internship, your student teaching,
Yeah.
right? But there's so many degrees that there's no work-based learning included at all until you graduate. Then you get out in the field, and that's when you realize this isn't what you want to do. And I totally agree. Let's figure out on the front end through awareness and exploration activities what I like and what I don't like. Then let me get on that pathway.
Well, that's exactly what happened to me, Meredith. You're right. I was out of high school. I wanted to be a turf grass engineer. I wanted to work on golf courses or stadiums, and I was going to go to Auburn. My dad's a big Bama fan, and he was like, "Hey, cool. If that's what you really want to do, and go over there to that school, fine. I'll help you out, but you need to get a job doing that." And so I went down to a local golf course, and I worked on that grounds crew over winter break. And the first time we played golf as a staff, there were some golfers out there, and this is nothing against golfers. I'm sure most of them are really nice, but that group that was playing that day turned me off to being a golf course superintendent. I was like, there's no way on this green earth that I'm going to deal with those people for a whole career. And I went home, told my dad, and he was like, noted, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know, but not that, and I was working for $8 an hour, but I knew right then there was no way I was ever going to be able to deal with golf course people.
You saved your dad a lot of money that day.
Yeah. So anyway, I ended up getting into education. But you know what? Same thing then. Like I thought it was cool. The classes were great. Got to that teaching, and I'm like, I don't know. And I got to that first semester. I'm like, Dad, This is not it. He's like, yes, it is. Stick it in. So, but it worked out. But I probably would not have survived in the turf grass world if I hadn't got that
Yeah,
job.
both my parents were teachers, and they both told me, don't base what you think about teaching off your student teaching or your first year. You
Oh
got to give it a
no.
little more time than that right there.
Yeah, and I think, but I say all that to say, and there were lots of people there that helped, like you, helped me survive that time. But if I had had a little bit more time and hands on and really, really immerse in that, like an apprenticeship, I would have known more about it and made better decisions probably. That's really cool. I think that I'm not saying we're going to do it now, but there's a way probably to use our completer list over time and find a way to plug them into your programs around the state in some way. I don't know.
Oh, yes. And, when we're building apprenticeships for employers, I mentioned earlier that they're very customizable. So I'll give an example of we have a company who builds roads here in Alabama. And a lot of the classroom piece, the related instruction, they do in house. It's NCCER.
Mm-hmm.
But there were pieces that they needed that don't come with that.
Right.
And they worked with y'all and they said, here's what we need our employees to know to be able to do this job, and y'all built the training module for them.
Right.
And so a lot of it they do, but y'all do a piece of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so that classroom piece can look however it needs to look, and we love that y'all are able to fill in the gaps for our employers in that way.
Yeah, it's an ecosystem. When I was a biology teacher, you had the food web, and everybody played a part, and it makes it work. Next week, next Monday, Tuesday, we actually pilot the paver and the screed, which is one machine. People, I didn't know what a screed was. It's the thing on the back that actually makes the road.
I know I don't.
It's so the paver, you dump all the asphalt in front of it, and it basically generates it into this little form. The screed is the form that determines how thick the road is and how wide it is, and the crown. So it's gonna be really cool doing that with Wiregrass Construction down in Clanton.
That's exactly who I was talking about. That's great.
Yeah, Eric
Good.
Fulmer. If there's a champion from that world, Chris Strickland and Eric Fulmer, man, they latched onto us, and I felt like with Chris, I felt like he was like my crazy uncle who loved me and took me on big adventures, and Eric is the same way. They just loved on us and have made our stuff possible. Meredith, one of the biggest things on the commerce side of workforce is the Department of Commerce is transitioning to Office of Workforce, Department of Workforce. And so you've got a new Secretary Reed who stepped in to take that lead. How does your role impact his mission for apprenticeships?
Secretary Reed is so supportive of our work, and we are really excited to be transitioning under his leadership. Apprenticeship is one of his three main pillars of, where he wants to see us advance the workforce here in Alabama. And we're just really excited. We want to get out there every day and make him proud.
Yeah. Well, I see a lot of social media posts and news articles where he's running around. That man must not sleep, and I know the energy you guys bring to it all. So he's got some fire engines running behind him here to keep all those things running smoothly. So I'm excited to see how you make his vision come true. Last question, really, Meredith. This is what we really close with everybody. In 5 or 10 years, it's Friday afternoon, and you've worked all week, and you're toasting to something that was good. What was it? 5 years from right now, and you've accomplished so much, and you think, you know what, I need to have a toast to XYZ. What is it?
I'm a data person. I really do. I always take it back to data. And I think when we can cut that disconnected youth rate in half here in Alabama, I'll raise a glass to that.
I love that. And that's certainly worthy. That's 45,000 people that had a better life because of your work. So it's clear, Meredith, that you guys are not just building programs and just trying to shove people through it. You're trying to change lives. That's really cool. I'm glad you took time out of your very busy schedule to share your story with us. Final thoughts on what you're doing with the AOA as the new director.
Houston, I love what I do, and part of that is because I have such an incredible team. Our former director really built a team full of rock stars, and they work so hard every day, it's almost like a unicorn because we're government employees.
But don't
We
act like good.
love yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like this, we get a bad rap, and there's a lot of stereotypes about us out there, but we work so hard every day. We believe in this work. We know it can change lives, and to have an entire team who is so dedicated and passionate about this, like it actually this work is hard, but it makes it fun, and we all like each other. We like the work. We
Yeah.
like each other, and I'm just blessed to be part of this team.
Well, liking what you do and liking the people that you do it with, that's a pretty good job and a pretty good place to be
I'll
in
take
life.
it.
So, yeah, me too. Well, Meredith, thanks for taking time with us. We're about timed out for today. Very, very beneficial story. I'm excited. I'm excited by your excitement, if that makes any kind of sense. But thanks for being
Be
here.
contagious.
Yeah, it gets very contagious. Well, this has been another episode of Innovation Unplugged. Remember to like and subscribe and share on your favorite podcast platform. Have a great day. Thanks, Meredith. See you soon.
Houston.
All right. Bye.